Hello everyone, I thought I would come here and talk a little bit, very little bit, about the new Bob Dylan album that's just come out. It's about a week old, and the album is called Rough and Rowdy Ways. And this album has been getting a lot of acclaim. It has been, everywhere you look, it's getting 5 out of 5 stars, maybe some places 4.5 or 4 stars. I have yet to see an unflattering review of this album, and this is not going to be a review per se, because in my case, although I'm a Bob Dylan fan, I'm more of a casual Bob Dylan fan. I'm not a diehard, so I really don't think I know as much on the subject as a lot of you out there. So I'm just going to give you first impressions. This is not a full review. I want to emphasize that. In order for this to be a full review, I would have liked to listen to an album at least 3 or 4 times, at the very least. This is just one listen. I've only had one listen to the album all the way through, and this is just actually my first inklings of what I feel about it upon listening to it. Now, when the songs first started to come out on YouTube and such, they were songs like this one, which is on the back cover of here, Murder Most Foul. It's a song mainly about John F. Kennedy, among other things. And that came out, and everybody listened to it and loved it. And people were asking me, what did I think of it? And I thought the words to Murder Most Foul were very interesting. They made you think, like a lot of times when Dylan does songs, you think about, what does this mean? Why does he put these phrases here? You could kind of arrive at what you want from it. That was the first track that came out, and then later on there was another track called I Contain Multitudes. And also people asked me, what did you think of I Contain Multitudes? And my answer was, it sounds a lot like Murder Most Foul, same kind of arrangement. I thought both songs, originally when I heard them, were very interesting as far as lyrics go. Words are very interesting, but there wasn't anything there really compelling to me, in my opinion, musically. It was just basically Bob Dylan doing poetry, I would say, talking, very interesting, like Dylan always is, and you can interpret what he's saying different ways, but I wasn't getting enough music out of there. Now, when Rough and Rowdy Ways came out, and I heard all the great stuff about it, all the great opinions, I said, well, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get it, sight unseen or unheard. I'm just going to get it. And it turns out that after one listen, just about every song on this new album for me was much in the style of Murder Most Foul and I Contain Multitudes, meaning very interesting words, better suited maybe in a book of poetry. Dylan, talking really over a very minimal amount of music. I didn't find the music interesting. So what I'm going to do here is kind of a comparison. I don't always like stacking albums up against past albums, like why doesn't this sound like that? I mean, every album is its own entity and you're not supposed to really compare them, but I'm going to show you why I think this new album, Rough and Rowdy Ways, for me, is an album that I kind of admire more than actually enjoyed. This is so far only available, I think, on a CD. I don't believe the vinyl's come out. It opens up like a gatefold here. And what's interesting is you can see on the tracks there, Disc 1 has 9 songs on it, and Disc 2 has only the one song, Murder Most Foul. It's a separate disc altogether, which I still consider that part of the whole album. I don't consider it a bonus track or anything. But the song is so long, I think 17, 18 minutes, something like that, that it has its own disc, I guess. It probably could have fit on the first disc. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Okay? So, first of all, it's a great cover. I love the cover, I love the photo, and I love the title, Rough and Rowdy Ways. The only thing I'm asking after hearing this one time is, there's nothing really rough or rowdy on this album, really. If you want to call it kind of, reserved and thought-provoking or something like that, innermost thoughts, something like that as a title, fine. I don't think this is a good title. I don't see Rough and Rowdy applying here much. Now, before I go on with talking about this, I immediately thought of the album that came before this as far as Bob Dylan's original material. And that was an album that I absolutely adored. One day when I do a top Bob Dylan's albums, a list on mine channel, I'm going to be having this easily in the top 10. I really love Tempest. Now, Tempest, back in 2012, was the last album we got of all new, Bob Dylan originals. After that, he's been doing, I think, 3 albums of American Standards, the American Songbook, which really left me cold. I wasn't really interested in that. And but what's first noticeable on the new album is we get to sense that Bob Dylan's voice is actually better. And some people have speculated that maybe by doing the American Songbook and working more on his Sinatra style or singing vocals, he's actually improved his voice. First thing you notice is Bob Dylan's voice, for Bob Dylan these days, sounds better on the new album than it has in quite a while. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Words are great. They make a song sometimes, but I'm a fan of music more than just poetry, if you will. So for me, as much as I can respect this album, the new album, I don't think I'll ever play it again, and that's going to shock a lot of people. Well, what do you mean you're not playing it again? You're not going to give it... How could you judge an album on one listen? I know enough about my taste in Bob Dylan to know, while I'm sure this will get better and better and better, I think it's a respectable album. It's just not what I'm looking for. Now, some years ago now, in 1997, this is one of the more, I guess you'd say, like... modernized Dylan albums, Time Out of Mind, which was well received. I thought this was pretty good. I enjoyed it on the whole, musically and lyrically, more than Rough and Rowdy Ways. So that one will get some listens from me in the future. Other examples of past Dylan albums that I've really enjoyed are this one, Slow Train Coming from 1979, kind of his Born Again album, if you will. But what I loved about it was, again, in addition to really interesting words, you had really good music, musicianship, and again, solid music format. This is good musically as well as lyrically. And the same thing I would say holds true for 1983 album Infidels, one of my favorite Bob Dylan albums. I like these albums much more musically, these ones I'm showing you, okay? And that's really all I can say here. I'll tell you from the new album, the ones that grabbed me on first listen that I liked best: False Prophet. I liked the song Black Rider. I thought Black Rider was interesting. But probably on the first listen, my very favorite would be Goodbye Jimmy Reed. And the reason I like Goodbye Jimmy Reed is because, again, it had more, substance to it musically. It was more of a backing, kind of uplifting. A lot of stuff here sounds like Bob Dylan is kind of reaching the end of his life, which he is. He's 79, I believe now. Just turned 79, and he's realizing his mortality. I think his mortality comes through on here, and he's realizing he may be near the end, maybe even wondering if this is going to be his last record. Don't know. And that's, as I say, that's all great as far as words go and as far as thoughts go. But when I want to hear music, I'll reach to another Bob Dylan album. Okay? So I hope you know where I'm going with this. I'm sure the new album would reward even more on repeat listens, but I have no great desire to play it again because musically I'm not really getting anything musically out of it. But we'll see. Maybe I'll make another video on this album someday down the road if I play it some more times. So yeah, I can definitely sense it's good. And again, this is not really a full-scale review here because I'm not reviewing it and analyzing it in depth. I'm just telling you a first feeling on it. And I could tell it's good enough that a lot of Dylan fans are going to love it. But just not my cup of Dylan tea. Take care.